And just checking to make sure I'm audible. Okay, very good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start because I've heard from people that it takes a few minutes for the stream to actually reach out into space. And okay, good. Oh, hello from New Hampshire. Hi. So that way, if it takes a few minutes for people to start getting the live stream, I might as well start since it is 5 o'clock anyway. So as I said, a couple blocks would be helpful. If you don't have yoga blocks, it's okay. You can improvise with either big books, like a thick dictionary type book, or two, roughly the same size. Sometimes you could also use the seat of a chair or a folded up blanket, like a thick blanket like this, you can fold up to about the size of a block. You might also want that blanket, excuse me, for padding under the knees for some stuff we'll be doing. I also have a yoga bolster, this long, firm cushion. Something like that can also be really, really helpful. So I'll give you a moment to get some of those things while I drink some water. And then we'll start seated today. If possible, I suggest sitting in a pose called Virasana. You could also sit in Vajrasana, which simply means kneeling. So it's just kneeling like this. If you can sit in Virasana, it'll help things sort of get things started for what we're going to be working on today. So you'll notice I have the end of the bolster going forward like this. You could also do this on blocks or even 2 blocks stacked on top of each other. Come onto your knees in front of that prop with the knees together and the feet apart. And the prop is just in between your ankles. So that when you sit down, the feet are a little apart and the knees are together. And you achieve this by just a slight internal rotation in the hip socket. So if it's comfortable to sit like that, or maybe comfortable is not the right word, but it's doable, try it. If neither kneeling or sitting in this pose, Virasana, is comfortable for you, go ahead and sit any other way that you can that helps you sit up nice and straight. Could be cross-legged on the floor, on a block. I usually say on a chair is fine. The only reason a chair would be a little bit difficult today is we're going to be leaning back a little bit. So the chair back might be getting in your way. You could sit on like a low ottoman, something like that with no back. So we're going to start for a few moments in this pose, seated and holding a mudra for our first few breaths. We're doing a mudra today called Brahmara Mudra, which means the gesture of the bee, the honeybee. So to do this mudra, open up your hands and just take your index fingers and curl them up so the tip of the index finger meets the base of the thumb on both hands. Then the middle finger and the thumb touch. The tips of the middle fingers touch the tips of the thumbs on both hands. And the other fingers can just relax out. You don't have to hold them straight out. They can just sort of be relaxed, but not touching. And then rest the backs of your hands on your lap. Sit up nice and straight. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, close your eyes. Otherwise, just let the gaze be soft. Maybe cast the gaze down at the floor, a few feet in front of you. And start to take a few deep breaths. And holding this mudra, start to direct the breath or become more aware of the breath in the upper chest, in the neck, and the head. just focusing in on the sensation of the breath in those areas. So the gesture of the B is for allergies and for balancing the immune system. So those are all wonderful things at all times, especially this time of year. Maybe allergies are starting to bother you. So I'm going to just check the chat real fast as you guys just continue to breathe. Holding your mudra. So we'll be thinking a lot about sitting in our practice today. We all know that sitting for long periods of time is not good for us. Maybe you have to do that for work, or maybe being in this quarantine situation, you're just not able to be as active as usual. So you might be sitting a lot more just because of that. So we all know it's not really good for us to sit for long periods of time. Certain parts of the body get very tight. You might find yourself kind of hunching forward a lot. The front of the body might start to get kind of closed off, which makes it harder to breathe. Hip flexors and quads get tight. Hamstrings get tight and the calves get tight because your legs are also bent for a long period of time. All these things can make us feel a little bit cranky, frankly. So we're going to do a lot of stuff that's undoing that today. So go ahead and open your eyes. Release the mudra and stretch the fingers out for a moment. We're going to start with a seated cow and cat. You can do this from any seated position. If you're still in your virasana or vajrasana kneeling, reach forward so maybe you can tuck or curl the fingers right in front of your knees. And then when you inhale, pull yourself forward a little bit. So as you come into your cow spine, the arms are feeling like you're pulling back with the hands a little bit, and turn the face up towards the ceiling. And then on your exhale, maybe the arms straighten out as you round back, scoop the belly back towards the spine, and drop the head forward. So that's our seated cow and cat. We'll just do that a few times, inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. So you might notice that the pelvis can be tilting back and forth a little bit as we do our seated cow and cat, but maybe it's not as big a movement through the whole spine as when we do cow-cat in our table. So this is a way to make the movement happen more in the upper spine, just to start with. And then we can compare that when we do our cow and cat and table, which we'll do in a few minutes. So a couple more times, and then come up to neutral. And now we're going to try a reverse cow. So all that means is you're going to reach the fingertips back behind you, turn the hands open so the fingers start to go back behind you. You might be doing this on your fingertips, or you might put the palm flat to the floor, whichever seems to work best. The first one, we're just going to keep the pelvis down on the prop and just inhale, arching back. So you're doing the same position, the cow spine, but you're going backwards. So the face goes up towards the ceiling. Depending on how far you arch back, you might even start to look behind you a little bit. And then just release and come up to sit. So it starts to become a little bit more of the back bend because we have this angle going backwards. So this is called reverse cow. Cow going backwards. I've never seen a cow go backwards, but this cow goes backwards. Next reverse cow, you could either do it the same way we just did for a couple breaths, or you can try lifting the hips up off your prop. So you might need to walk the hands a slight bit further back in order to be able to do that. I'm going to keep the chest lifted. Inhale, and then press down in the knees so you can lift the hips up. And then maybe you can make that arching shape even further back and take a couple breaths there. Either version of your reverse cow. and then come up to sit. Just sit quietly for a moment, starting to do back bends a little bit. We're going to do some more during class, and we're also going to be doing some stretches for the fronts of the legs and hip flexors, all of which is what we need to do to reverse our sitting. As I started to plan class, it occurred to me that the word asana is actually a little bit, well, it's just interesting in terms of the theme of sitting. So we're going to come up onto hands and knees now. So go ahead and come up. I'm going to turn at a slight angle. You can face directly towards the screen or whatever works for you. And come to your tabletop. So asana, the word that we use in yoga to refer to our poses. All the poses are something asana, you might have noticed. The word asana literally means a seat comfortably held. So let's start our cow and cat here. From our tabletop, arching the back, looking up, and then exhale, round up, scoop the belly towards the spine. So inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. Go as slowly as you like through a few more rounds of cow and cat. Noticing now you can move a lot more because the pelvis is more free to shift and tilt back and forth. So in our asana practice, when we're doing all our different poses, even though we're maybe standing on one foot or upside down, it still has a sense in the literal meaning of the word of sitting, which I find interesting because we're obviously not sitting during these poses. But I like the idea of still carrying a little bit of the meaning of sitting in the sense of how we say in English, sitting with something. So whatever pose we're doing, even if we're not physically in a seated position, we're still sitting with something in that pose. Some kind of challenge or idea or an emotion that comes up. It's different for everybody. It might be frustration. It might be a feeling of awkwardness. It might be a feeling of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And we are, as yoga practitioners, always trying to sit with those feelings, even if it's not comfortable. Sometimes we have a feeling of elation and joy, and sometimes we have a feeling of pride that we were able to do a pose and hold it. We didn't used to be able to do it, or all these different things might happen. And it's wonderful. It's fine to have any emotion or response to any pose. Sorry, you can go back to child's pose. I'm almost done talking, then we'll keep moving. But it's also important to recognize our reaction and be conscious of it and sit with it for that extra moment just to check in, what effect is that having on us? Maybe being too successful at yoga or, doing a pose really well is almost as, difficult to accept sometimes as struggling. Or the effect long-term for you might be just as problematic. Just putting it out there. I'll talk more about sitting as we move. From here, we're going to come up into, we're going to come to puppy pose. Sorry. Yes. Yes, we are coming to puppy pose. So, no, we're not coming to puppy pose. Sorry. Lost track of what I was doing. You're going to stretch your left leg straight back. And then push through the heel gently to open up the back of the leg. Point your toe and lift the leg up off the floor. Optional to reach the opposite arm forward. If it's hard to balance, you always just can work with the arm down. If you have the arm up, you're reaching long from the tips of those right fingers through the tips of the left toes. This is your starting position. We'll consider this neutral, a long neutral position. Inhale, and then exhale, lift the arm and the leg up, look forward. Inhale, back to neutral, not going any further down towards the floor than this. Exhale, up. Inhale to neutral. So it's not a big movement, don't worry about it. Exhale, up. Inhale, neutral. So it's going towards almost like a locust with one arm and one leg in the air. So we're just engaging through the back of the body. One more time, and then come down to rest for just a moment. We're going to work a little bit more with those same two limbs. We're going to lift that back leg again. This time, bend the knee so the foot is pointing up, or maybe even try to squeeze it in towards your buttocks a little bit more. Reach back with the right hand, thumb down, and see if you can grab on to that foot. If you can grab onto it, you're just going to try to lift it up. Let yourself come towards a cow spine when you do this. If it's hard to grab the foot, you can just hold the legs, the arm and the leg up in a lengthened position for the same amount of time. So we're just trying to lift, 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 like a cow spine. One more breath. And then slowly release both knees down and back to child's pose. Take a couple breaths in your child's pose, and then come back up to your tabletop. Stretch the right leg straight back. Same way. Just pressing through the heel gently at first, then lift the leg up, point the toes. Optional to stretch the opposite arm forward. Inhale, lengthen, that's your neutral, and then exhale, lift. Inhale, lengthen, neutral, exhale, lift. Each time you lift, maybe try to lift a tiny bit higher. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Good. Come all the way down and rest for just a moment before we try our tiger pose. It's called tiger pose on this side. So you're going to have that same leg back. Lift it up, point the toes, and squeeze the foot in, bending the knee deeply. Left hand reaches back, and see if you can grab that foot. Looking straight ahead, try to lift everything straight up. Again, if it's hard to grab the foot, don't worry about it. You'll just go back to our sort of floating locust position, everything lengthened out, and just try to keep lifting everything up any amount. And then slowly release everything down and go back to your child's pose for a few breaths. Now we're going to go to puppy pose. So slowly come out of your child's pose and start to walk the hands forward. The hips are staying back over the knees at first. Come forward enough with the arms so that you can reach all the way back, bringing the upper body down in line with the arms. And take a few breaths here. Lengthening out any amount. Good. Then coming forward, bend the elbows. Place the forearms down parallel to each other. Bring the shoulders over the elbows. Stretch one leg straight back, tucking the toes. The other leg and come to your forearm plank. And just hold that for a couple breaths. And then you can lower down for a moment. Gentle Sphinx pose. We're actually going to do a couple things from a side forearm plank position. So if you have a mat or blanket for padding, you probably don't need it right now, so you can move that away. We're going to come onto the right forearm first into a side forearm plank. So you can angle the hands in and come onto your right side. Just stack the legs. Get yourself lined up, make sure you're in a straight line, and then just for a couple breaths, we're gonna come up into a side forearm plank. Make sure you're always pushing down into the forearm and lifting up out of this shoulder for when we're holding ourselves up off the floor. This hip's gonna be up off the floor. So you don't wanna be slouching down like this. It's much better for the shoulder for this position. Okay, you could do this from the knees if it's really difficult to do it from the feet. So you just be here, or straight legs coming onto the outer edge of your right foot. And just hold that for a moment and smile. And then slowly lower down. And notice how when you lower down, you're gonna stay in a straight line in this direction, right? But now the body's kind of curving to the side a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and let that happen. We're gonna let this sink down a little bit more, the right side of the rib cage a little bit more. And now, since the hip is down, you could let this shoulder shrug up a little bit to get more of a stretch there. If you wanna try, I actually prefer to straighten the arm, and then I let this sink down a little bit and get a little more into that side body, the little muscles around the ribs, just letting them stretch out a little bit. Then we're gonna come all the way down onto the side. So, options for the arm here, you can have your elbow bent, resting your head on your hands, or you could straighten this arm and come all the way down, resting the head on the bicep. Really is fine either way. So now we're gonna separate the legs. The top leg, you're gonna point the toes and start to send the leg straight back. The bottom leg stays the foot stays flexed as if it's in Tadasana, as if you're standing on that foot. The other foot can point and start to move back. The leg is straight and you're just trying to send it back behind you. So you might start to feel a stretch on the front of the leg, even up in the hip flexor area, depending on how far you can get that leg to go back. The big toe side of the foot can come down to the floor. So the legs are kind of scissoring together in the sense that you're not keeping the top leg lifted up. It's just coming down to the floor. So that means maybe even more of a stretch on the outside of the hip or the front of the hip. Good, so just stay there a couple breaths. And now we're gonna try basically doing a side lying dancer's pose. So what that means is that top leg, you're gonna bend the leg, bring the heel in close to the buttocks and reach back with the top arm. Similar arm position as when we did our tiger pose, only now we're on the same side. Hand and leg are on the same side. See if you can grab onto that foot. And since we don't have to worry about standing up and balancing, you can try to kick the foot back behind you. Or if that puts a little kind of weird pressure on your knee, which I know sometimes can happen, don't worry about kicking the foot back. Just try to move the knee back any amount. And continue to breathe nice and slow through the nose. Good. Slowly release the foot. Bring that top knee forward and drop it onto the floor in front of you. And then roll away from that knee towards your back. So it's coming into a twist. Turning the chest up towards the ceiling. Maybe this knee pops up off the floor when you do that. Don't worry about it if that happens. Just let it, just focus on the twist happening in the spine. Good. And then slowly roll onto your side again and then all the way onto the belly. And then we're going to switch and do the other side. So I'm just going to swivel myself this way so I can still be facing somewhat towards the camera. So we're going to go onto the left forearm, angle that hand in, turn onto your left side. Check out that you're in a nice straight line this way. And again, making sure that we're pressing down with this forearm, lifting up out of the shoulder. Like think of this space between the shoulder and the neck on this side, keeping it nice and spacious there. Again, you can do your knees or the feet. Just a couple breaths. Come on up to your side plank, side forearm plank. And then lower down and find that same side stretch here. You can do it with the arms straight. And again, not as much weight bearing on the shoulder now, so it's okay to let it shrug up a little bit with control. Good, and then come all the way down onto that side, either head on hand or stretching the arm out straight. The bottom leg, you're going to keep the foot flexed. The top leg, you point the toes and start to move the leg back behind you, keeping it straight and just trying to point the toes and swing that leg any amount behind you. Making sure you're not rolling towards your back. Staying on the side. Couple more breaths, just moving that leg straight back. Bottom foot is staying flexed, as if you're standing on it. Good, and then we're going to try to grab onto that foot. So bend that top knee, bring the foot up behind you. You'll notice I'm kind of cheating by lifting up to grab onto the foot and then lowering the knee back down. If you could do it, if you can get the foot without doing that, that's great. But if you have to, it's not a big deal. And then any amount here, trying to let that leg go back behind you. So either by kicking the foot back behind you or the knee moving back behind you. Either way, just checking out how far back you can get that to move, opening up the front of the leg, front of the abdomen. Slowly releasing, drop the knee in front. Take a moment to twist away, turning the chest up towards the ceiling. Gentle twist. Good, and then finally rolling onto the belly once again. And we'll come right up into our Sphinx pose here. So, lining up the forearms parallel to each other. Legs are parallel, tops of the feet pressing down into the floor. Lifting up into your Sphinx. Bringing the sternum up towards vertical. Holding on to the lower belly. Okay, so we're imagining there's a marble on the floor. Somewhere between your navel and your pubic bone. And you're trying to lift it up off the floor with your muscles of the lower belly. Inhale, exhale, reach the head forward as you drag the hands back by the lower ribs, roll the shoulders down and back. Inhale, up, cobra. Doesn't have to be too high. Exhale, reaching forward again as you straighten the arms back. Inhale, up, locust. Stay up as you exhale, bring the hands forward, palms down, and inhale back to locust once again. Sphinx. Let's do that one more time. Inhale in your Sphinx. I'm going to try to hold onto that core engagement the whole time, even when you exhale. I kind of talked too long, so let's try it again. Start from the inhale on Sphinx. Inhale. And exhale. Drag the hands back. Reach the heart forward. Plant the hands. Inhale up. Cobra. Exhale. Reaching the heart forward. Straighten the arms. Inhale up. Locust. And then keep the hands back and just exhale down right here for a moment. We're going to do one bow pose in this position. So we want to keep the arms reaching back. So bow pose is Similar to what we've been doing with grabbing the feet behind us, only going to try both feet at the same time. So we'll start off here, bending the knees. Lift up the upper body like you're going to do your locust, and then reach back, see if you can grab those feet. Try to hold on around the ankle so you can flex the feet and then lift up any amount here. If it's hard to grab the feet, just hold your locust a little bit longer, like this with your legs straight. Either way, you're just trying to hold yourself up off the floor any amount. One more breath, and then release everything back down to the floor. Elbows out, fingers together, and rest your head down for a few breaths. So one more thought about this idea of the sitting and what we're trying to undo when we do our different yoga poses. Everyone's starting from a different place. Some people, you might have this experience yourself, or you've seen people who are kind of constantly in a kind of crunch position, almost like they're trying to do a crunch with all the time. Back is rounded, shoulders hunched forward, front of the body is tight because they've been sitting a long time, or whatever is going on in their life. This is happening. It's hard to breathe. This is pretty exaggerated. I'm exaggerating, but everyone has a little bit of experience with being in that position. Other people start from a more neutral position, and they can still benefit from doing back bends, but it might be a little more accessible for them because the muscles aren't so tight in the front. Come on up out of your resting position. You can push back to child's pose for a moment, and then come up to kneel. So the reason I'm mentioning all these little details is I'm actually I have the opposite tendency, which means that I back bend, especially in the lower back, a little too easily, a little too soon in poses. And it's something I've learned from teachers telling it to me over long periods of time, and also from doing these videos. And I can watch myself in the video later, I can see it. Even though I've been told not to do it so much, I know that I still am doing it. I'm just mentioning that because if you're watching me, I don't want you to imitate that so much, okay? In other words, if you see me in a downward facing dog and I look like I'm really arching my back, that doesn't mean it's proper. It's a little too much. So when I'm doing this kind of work, thinking of opening the front of the body and doing a back bend, I still need to do it, but it's a different dynamic for me. I have the tightness in the front of the body here in the quads. So that's what I need to work on more than, say, actually the back bending aspect of all of this work. So something to think about and to watch out for. Everyone has their different tendencies. So come on up out of your child's pose. We're going to reverse, we're going to come back to our reverse cow pose. So you're going to come, grab the same prop that you had before when you did your virasana at the beginning of class, but you want to have it far enough back on your mat or space that you have a good amount of space in front of you. If you're not using a prop, that'll be fine. If you are using a prop or you're wondering how high up you should be sitting on blocks, go ahead and make it fairly high. It's actually going to be easier to be up a little bit higher rather than lower towards the floor in what we're about to try to do. So you're going to come to your reverse cow. You can watch first if you're not sure what I'm talking about. We're going to try to step the right foot forward when we're up in reverse cow. So it's better to have the hands flat on the floor. If you get the palms flat on the floor, just because it's more stable than being on fingertips. All right, so I'm already leaning pretty far back. I'm going to come up to my reverse cow, trying to lift the hips any amount up, and then just slide that right foot forward. So go ahead and try that. If it doesn't seem to want to come forward, you could try to bring it a little bit out to the side. If it doesn't feel right to do that, don't force it. We're not going to try to overdo anything. You just come back up to sit and then lean over to the opposite side and get that foot forward. So you're coming up, your left leg is still folded back in sort of this half virasana. You're going to grab onto the right shin and hug it in very, very close. The heel should come as close as you can get to the prop that you're sitting on. Like you're trying to close up the heel to your sitting bone, right? So you're trying to get it nice and close there. And first we're just sitting up tall and just bringing it in that close. You might start to feel the calf and Achilles getting stretched out quite a bit. Now we're going to keep the spine neutral and just lean forward. So you're just going to be leaning on the top of this thigh. And there's not a lot of room, so you're not going to go too far. But that's going to intensify that stretch a little bit more. Don't overdo it. Just test it out. Leaning into it any amount more. A couple more breaths. And then sit up and unfold this leg about halfway. Now it's much more in front of you. We're going to come into a lunge, this being the front leg of the lunge. So let's just try it. You just have to kind of push yourself up. Maybe this foot has to come a little bit farther forward. Yeah, make it a little bit farther forward. We want the back leg, your left leg, to stretch way back. So come forward so the right knee is over the right ankle, and then tuck the back toes and push that foot back. Don't just leave it where it is. You're going to try to push it farther, farther, farther back. Good. You're going to keep all 10 toes facing forward. Start to engage the core to lift your upper body off this front leg, pushing into that front foot, and finally inhale up to a high lunge position. Good. You're going to bring your hands down to your hips. I'm going to turn a little bit sideways. Hopefully this will help you see what I'm doing a little bit better. We're just going to do some dips. Bend both knees a little bit more. Try to lower this knee towards the floor. And then inhale, straighten both legs. Exhale, dip. Inhale up. Exhale. A little bit lower. Inhale up. And this time we're going to exhale down. Keep the front knee bent. And then try to straighten the back leg straight back. Good. Swivel. So you plant down that back foot, coming to a warrior two position. Yes, that's correct. I'm checking my notes. I was right. So set up in your warrior two. Front knee tracking straight forward over the front toes. Back leg straight. Foot is angled maybe a tiny bit forward. Good. From here, going to inhale, reverse warrior. The front leg stays bent. Reverse warrior, usually when we do it, we're still moving in the same plane, right? Just going back towards that back leg. So you feel the stretch on the side here. Stay in your reverse warrior, but take it a little bit more into this sort of, looks a little balletic, I guess, but we're trying to keep the side bend aspect, side bending back towards the back leg, but adding a little bit of a back bend. So the chest starts to turn up towards the ceiling. Legs have to stay nice and strong to hold you up, keep you from falling over. So don't fall over. If you start to, just stand right back up. Good. And then everybody's going to come up anyway. Straighten the front leg. Inhale the arms out. Still facing the upper body sideways towards your left side. We're going to come to a triangle, just reaching, think of from the pelvis, reaching the spine forward. The bottom hand touches the inside of the front leg, or you can put it on a block or a stack of blocks, whatever you need, and then turn to look up towards that top hand. When you turn the head, don't think of just turning the face. Think of turning from about here, the center of the breastbone. And then inhale back up. Swivel to face the front of the mat. Hands down and back knee down. Inhale up, crescent lunge. And hands down. We're going to come to a quad stretch here. So there are lots of different ways to do it. Stretching the quad of the back leg. Probably want to pad under that knee. You also want to make sure it's going way back if you're going to do this variation. There's another variation you can do using the wall, which I'll show in a second. This one is going to be right here. You don't want this knee to be too close in underneath you because it's going to hurt your kneecap to be on it in that position. It's also not going to be much of a stretch. So you would just be here, turning the upper body forward and also pushing the upper body a little bit more up or even back if possible. So that's one way to do it. The other way is with the wall. So the wall has a lot of advantages for this because you don't have to hold on to the foot. Again, you would want a good amount of padding under the knee. And you're going to take that same leg and put the foot on the wall. The foot is going to look like this on the wall, just showing you from the side because you won't be able to see it when I go here. You just come to the wall, place the foot on the wall, the ball of the foot is on the wall, bring the knee as far back towards the wall as you can get it with the foot in that position. And then this foot is going to step forward. And then you can come up and you don't have to hold onto the foot. You have both hands in front to prop yourself up, work on pushing yourself up and back. And that way you can stay and enjoy your quad stretch without as much struggle. You can move the front foot closer in to get more of a stretch. You can also try closing up this knee slightly more, and you'll start to feel it as well. So either one. If you're doing the first one, you've been doing it for a long time, so you can come out. If you got into the wall position, you want to take a few more breaths there, just take a few more breaths. Good. And then come forward, and we're going to come back to our kneeling position. We're going to try to step the left foot forward from reverse cow like we did on the other side. I'm going to try this one without a prop, just for fun. I'm going to see if I can do that. You can try that as well, or if you know you need to be lifted up a little bit before you try stepping forward, go ahead and grab your blocks or your bolster, cushion, whatever you have. You're going to walk the hands back behind you and come to your reverse cow, lifting the hips up any amount, and then see if you can slide that left foot forward. And then you're coming onto your sort of half virasana with the right leg folded back. And it's quite possible you need a prop now underneath the left sitting bone, a block or whatever you can grab. It's possible that you can be sitting all the way down on the floor in this position if you're super flexible. So here we are. We're going to bring that left heel in as close as you can get it, sitting up nice and tall. And start to come forward. Bring the upper body forward, hugging towards this, left leg. For some reason on the other side, it felt so intense to me. On this side, I guess this calf isn't as tight. It's kind of like, okay, no big deal. So I guess it's not as tight. Sit up and stretch that leg about halfway forward. We're going to come to our lunge now with this foot in front. So pushing yourself forward. Maybe you have to hop it even a little bit more forward. Now you're going to tuck your back toes and push that back foot way back as far as you can get it. And I'm just going to swivel to this side now. So from here, all 10 toes facing forward. Engage your core, push into that front leg to come up to your high lunge. Big breath in. Exhale, hands to your hips. And we're going to do our dips. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, dip. Inhale. Exhale. Try to get the back knee further down each time. Inhale. Exhale. Last time, inhale. Exhale. Bend both knees. Keep the front knee bent and then just try to straighten the back leg. Maybe the foot presses further back. Swivel the back foot down to come to your warrior two on this side. Front knees tracking over the front ankle. Inhale back, reverse warrior. First just going sideways towards the back leg. And then we're going to turn and take a couple breaths, lifting the chest up towards the ceiling. I'm sure there's some ballet term for this. We'll look that up later. So just a couple breaths there. Legs staying nice and strong. And then come back up and straighten your front leg. Getting ready for triangle. Reach the arms out. Front leg is still tracking straight forward. So check that the knee is still facing that way. Don't want to let it roll in. Inhale, and then tilt the pelvis. This hip starts to stick out behind you so that you can come down into your triangle. This front hand can just touch the inner front of the, whatever I'm trying to say, inside of the front leg. Or you can put it on blocks. And again, try to turn up to look at the top hand, turning from the center of the chest. Inhale back up. Swivel to face the front of the mat. Hands down and drop that back knee. Inhale up, crescent lunge. And exhale, hands down. So now we will do our quad stretch on this side. Your choice if you want to do it right from here, bending the back knee in, or the wall. I'm going to do the wall again because I already have my padding set up there. And it gets a little deeper into the hip flexors. So again, I'm going to place the ball of the foot on the wall and try to get the knee in as close as I can. And then step the other foot forward like a mini lunge. And then coming up, taking a few breaths. Again, trying to lift the upper body away from the top of this thigh. It's easier if you're leaning forward, right? You don't feel as much. You might feel it only down here. The more you start to lift the upper body, you start to feel it even way up here. It's sort of the abdomen, the psoas, the deep muscle here can also get super tight. So we want to try to release that a little bit too. So find a place where it's a good amount of stretch, but you're not feeling like you're hurting yourself. Good. And then slowly release both knees down. And just rest quietly, either kneeling or in child's pose. A couple moments. And then we'll do a little work, sort of breaking the monotony from all this quad stretching and everything. You're just going to come down to sit with your legs out in a straddle position. And if you have a yoga block, go ahead and grab one. preferably foam. Cork blocks would be a little bit heavy for what we're going to do. You could do it, it'd just be harder. So we're going to stretch side to side in our Upavista Konasana, this straddle position. We are going to be using the block, and it's going to be actually more core work than normal for a seated pose, which I hope is interesting to you. At first, all we're going to do is hold the block between the hands, palms facing in, and try not to grab onto the block. The whole idea of holding the block between the palms is that you have to press and engage the arms to hold the block. If you can hold onto it with the fingers, the arms can just be like relaxed. They don't have to be doing anything. But if you're keeping the arms straight and not grasping the block, but just pressing like this, it's a little bit more work for the arms. So inhale, stretching up nice and tall, and then you're going to angle yourself towards your left so that when you go over to your right, you're sideways. So we're trying to come down as low as we can towards this leg, and also towards the back of your right hand going towards the toes of the right foot. So you might not touch, that's fine. If you do touch, don't rest there. You're just gonna lightly touch and then inhale back up. Exhale, turn to the other side and go to your left. Inhale back up. Let's do a couple more times. Inhaling as you come up, exhale, sideways. Just tap if you get that far. Inhale back up, exhale. If you don't get that far, it's actually better. It's more core work if you never touch down. Inhale back up. One more time each side. Exhale to the right. Try to reach the block as far away as you can. Inhale back up. And exhale. All the way over. Inhale back up. And bring the block down. Put the block inside your right leg, around the calf, and fold in the left leg. And then you're still pointing off to that side. We're going to side bend over towards the right. And here you can go as far as you like. The left arm comes up behind you. This arm might just rest on the block in front here, or you might reach for the foot. And here you're trying to spin the chest up as if you want to look up towards the ceiling with the heart. And come all the way back up. You can't reach the arm to the foot. You're just reaching in that direction. And come up. Let's just do a seated pigeon really quickly with this left leg. You're going to face towards your right. So you scoop under that shin and just pull the shin in towards you as if you want to put the center of the shin right to the center of your chest. And then put that leg back where it started. Bring the block over so it's inside the calf on the left side. Fold in the right. And now we're going to stretch towards the left side, sideways again. So this hand might just come to the block, or if you can reach to the foot, you're going to come to, actually, you're trying to hold on to the inside of the foot. Right arm comes up and over, inhale, and then exhale, reaching for the outside of the foot with that hand. And if you're not holding the foot, you're just reaching in that direction any amount. And finally come all the way back up. Good, so now we're gonna finish with one more back bend sort of pose, Supta Virasana. So I'm gonna do it sideways so that you can see what's going on. If you have a long cushion, doesn't have to be this shape, it could be, wider, you can use it now. You're gonna put it behind you. And then you might want to put a block in front of it. So this This could be any size, like a thick cushion from your couch or something. And then you'll sit in Virasana in front of it. We'll come a little bit this way, have more room this way. Now, I'll just show you quickly what we're doing if you are not sure what Supta Virasana is, so that you can decide if you want to try it or not. If it doesn't seem like something for you, that's totally fine. You will just do a bridge instead. Okay, and I'll briefly talk through that later if you're not sure what bridge is. If you know what it is, you can always just go ahead and do it. For Supta Virasana, you'll start in your Virasana, and we're going to go back. Okay, so at first it's kind of like a reverse cow situation, and you just test it out. How far can you go back? Right away, if you stay seated here, you're going to be arching a lot in the lower back. So what you want to do is, as you start to go back a little bit, lift up and tuck the pelvis forward. Tuck so the tailbone starts to go forward towards the backs of your knees. Then you go back a little bit more and you tuck again. If you keep going back, you might be able to take this out, or it's actually better to take it out because you're not sitting anymore. The sitting bones are going forward and you have plenty of padding there naturally. I have plenty at least. You might come down to your elbows like this. Try to keep the knees from going apart. Now I'm coming down, I'm not even on my elbows, I'm really on this prop. You can always stop with actually resting on your elbows like so. My back is still pretty arched because I actually am, the end of the bolster is making me go into that arched shape. So I'm gonna push it away. So I can try to keep tucking and lengthening out this way. So the buttocks go in between the heels, the tops of the feet are still on the floor. The knees are close together, trying not to let them splay apart. If I have an assistant, I would have my assistant keep pulling this bolster that way, so I could try to unarch here, and it would also help lengthen me out, just to have that feeling of having it dragged away. I don't have an assistant. I didn't prime an assistant for this, so I'm just going to stay like this and keep tucking here. So that's your Supta Virasana. Depending on your flexibility, you might be able to lie all the way flat on the floor. And as I said, if this seems like it's really too much for you, you could just try reverse cow for a moment and then come up and we'll do bridge. If you're in Supta Virasana and you'd like to stay, just stay a few more breaths. If you're ready to do a bridge, you're just going to come to lie on your back. Feet parallel, hip width apart. Try to bring them in fairly close to you. And then you just lift up into your bridge here. So it's a very similar shape as Supta Virasana. Just a little less intense on the front of the thighs, especially because you're not bending the knees as deeply. Just stay for a few breaths in your bridge, if that's what you've chosen as a back bend. Every time you're breathing in bridge, you're going to think of sending the knees away in the direction of your feet. And then you could inhale that way, and then exhale your sternum towards your chin. That's going to give you that feeling, again, of lengthening the front of the body a little bit more. We'll give you a couple moments to finish either back bend. If you came out of Supta Virasana or you're coming out of Supta Virasana, do so slowly, step by step. And when you come back up, just sit for a moment and eventually come to lie down on your back. So we'll all meet lying down on the back. Yeah, so we forgot to do our seated pigeon on one side. So we'll do a little hip opener on the back. So if you're in your bridge, you come down out of your bridge at any time. And just hug the knees gently in. We'll do our hip opener on both sides now. So just cross one ankle over the opposite knee and lift that bottom foot up off the floor. Top foot stays flexed and hug that thigh in towards you. Trying to keep the spine in neutral. Gaze straight up at the ceiling. You can hold around the hamstring area, or maybe you can reach all the way to the front of the shin. And just take a few breaths there. Why don't we take this right into our supine twist? So you're going to keep your legs as they are and just let them fall over to the side of the bottom leg. So I didn't say right or left, you're going to do either side of the bottom leg. And let both knees come down towards the floor. And the top one might not touch the floor. You're letting both fall towards the floor. The opposite arm can reach back behind you. And you can just stay head facing up towards the ceiling. If you want, you can take the hand on the side you're twisting towards, whichever hand that is, and see if you can grab the top foot. So that hand comes to the outer edge of your top foot. And then maybe stretch that leg out. If the leg doesn't come all the way straight, you just try to straighten it out any amount. And then slowly rebend that leg and come back. You end up in your figure 4 position again, and then just switch sides. So now you're doing your figure 4 stretch on the other side at first. Top foot stays flexed and holding either around the hamstring or the front of the shin. A few breaths. And then same way, let the legs come down to the side of the bottom leg. The opposite way than you just did. Both knees falling towards the floor. The arm reaching back behind you. And then again, the hand on the side of you're twisting towards, if you want to try grabbing that leg, you could also just grab onto the pants leg if you can't reach the foot. And maybe straightening out that leg any amount. Normally in a twist, I say, then turn the head the other way. This is a pretty deep twist, so there's not a lot of space to turn the head the other way. You can just keep the head in a comfortable position. And then bending the top leg and roll onto your back once again. We'll set up for Shavasana. Any variation of Shavasana that you would like to do is, of course, perfectly fine. If you're at home and you want to go lie on the couch, I can't stop you. I like to use my bolster under the knees like so. So if you have a bolster or another type of cushion, you can always do that. If you like legs flat on the floor, of course, that's always fine as well. If you have something under your knees, just make sure the backs of the heels touch down on something, whether it's the floor or the cushion itself. It's not very restful to have them floating in the air. So we'll come to our Shavasana, starting with our centering breath. After you get organized, that you feel You can release the weight of the legs and the arms. Start with your centering breath, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Try to make each breath slightly softer and gentler than the one before. After a few rounds of centering breath, go back to breathing in and out through the nose. Otherwise, keeping the breath very soft and natural. And just scanning quickly to make sure you've released any possible holding or tension in the body. Maybe it's in the face, the eyes. Maybe you can release a little bit more there. Maybe it's in the jaw or the throat. Any place else that you notice that you could release a little bit more, go ahead and try. Letting the weight of your body release down into the floor, almost as if you could start to sink into the floor a little bit. So slight depression in the floor to sort of cradle and hold the body. you'd like to stay in your Shavasana even longer, please do so. If you'd like to come out now, just start by wiggling the fingers and toes, slowly starting to move again a little bit. Bend the knees and roll over onto one side. You can rest on your side for a few breaths. And when you're ready, just push yourself up to a comfortable seat. And once you find your comfortable seat, it does not have to be Virasana or any other particular way of sitting, just whatever comes naturally to you in the moment. Let's press the palms together. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. Send me some comments if you have any ideas for what you might like to do in a future class. I'm always interested to know. So please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time.